I actually walked past this book at the bookstore, and I mean,
Wait,
wow, what a
what? Not
powerful.
Amazon.com?
Today, we all, especially busy entrepreneurs, think that we lack is time, but really what we lack is focus. I'm Stephanie, here with JD, Summa Up's co-founder, to talk with you about how to really extract value from what we choose to spend our time and energy on.
Today's episode of Uberhuman Secrets, it kind of reminds me of, a story in the saying, we have a few former pro athletes and they keep saying the same story over again, which is how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And one particular lesson I want to kind of just double click on is if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? And I say this to illustrate a point. We were interviewing Stephanie, this individual, for a world-class trainer role within our platform. We had 50 candidates, right? And we went to the final round for 10, and one stood above the rest. This person came in with case studies, pitch
Mhm.
deck, a war plan for the first 2 months. And then he had the audacity to say, are you guys offering a top 1% experience? And I was like, what? And he was interviewing us. And it got to the point where he's kind of rooted and followed through with regard to our key constraint. In this case, it was we were not following up and engaging the clients, the
Mhm.
diet, the training program, the science was working. It just we were missing kind of the emotional reason why people change. And he just stood above the rest. And his one thing that really stood out was his passion. And so the key takeaway is, again for us was if it wasn't really kind of a if it's a maybe or just maybe potentially, or if it's a weak yes, it's a no, right? This individual just stood out above the rest, and like
Mhm.
kind of like you were saying, it does carry over to everything we do, right?
You know that this is the right way to go if you know that something is the right thing to do or to be spending time on. You're going to be passionate about it. It's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a hell yes, and you're going to put all your passion and your energy into that. And whether it's working on your business or having a conversation, it's something that I think everyone in our day-to-day lives kind of it's really easy when you have so many potential things to be working on, so many things to be implementing, so many things to be doing, to kind of piece apart your focus. Like while you're having a conversation, you might realize that your mind is maybe wandering to something that you were working on earlier that day. We have to really make a conscious effort to focus. If we're metaphorically having one foot out the door with everything that we do, we're not really maximizing the value that we could be from any given conversation, any given interaction, anything that we're really expending our time and energy on. And I know that personally, when I first started, and this carries on, they were kind of happening in parallel when I was
Founding your business when you just kind of
working
the
on my
horror stories,
business,
right? Trying to figure out
working
personal
on
and professional and
working on my business, working on my fitness. I had this kind of all or nothing attitude. If I I wasn't trying to multitask on 10 different things at the same time, or if I wasn't doing a workout that really kind of maybe even overextended my body, but I felt like I was maximizing my effort by lifting maybe heavier weights or that kind of thing. But essentially what I kind of realized was that making the conscious effort to focus on what it was I was doing made me more efficient, so much so that my time, I was being more effective. I was providing more value by spending more time focused on everything that I chose to spend my time on.
in the present moment, right? So it's like, when you're working out, don't listen, to a ton of podcasts, or don't like have a call. Don't, watch a YouTube. Like just do the workout, right? Is that what I'm hearing? And like when you are doing, a exercise in the morning or some kind of a priority or project, don't have 100 tabs open, right? Just like one tab, one task at a time. Mute Slack, go on airplane mode. Really, it's just like work out the focus muscle. That's the lesson, right? Kind of, I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's really easy to get distracted. It's really easy to kind of be pulled in a different direction. And I think a good way to kind of be more conscious of that is to think about when you're having a conversation, are you listening to the person that you're having a conversation with? I think a lot of people, and because it is kind of difficult to piece apart exactly like how do you implement this, it's maybe easy to realize I'm actually working on 100 things at a time, but where do I start? Because the ability to focus is actually something that needs to be practiced, just like anything else,
In
in order
life,
to
yeah.
really do it well. So when you're having a conversation, I think the best conversations you have, you need to be all in for. So you need to be listening to what the person is saying. And if you're not going to have a conversation with someone where you're listening to what they're saying, why are you
Why are
having
you
the
having the
conversation?
conversation?
You need to be
No.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, the value from any interaction that you have comes from, the ability to learn maybe from another person's perspective or that kind of thing. So I think that when I started to realize, was I listening and then waiting to speak, or was I listening to hear what they were saying? And then that's how you have not only have better conversations and more insightful and useful conversations, but really really kind of draws back to that point of being able to focus.
Yeah, and what's funny is that that's the challenge we live in today, right? Because the internet has massively broadened possible space of what we can do, how we can spend our time, what careers, like how companies can build and scale. And most people haven't figured this out yet, right? And so I say this to illustrate a point. Only the top 1% of the smartest people realize this, but before you used to kind of connect with people in your tribe, your town, your school, your village, right? Your local area. Okay. Today, you can kind of almost connect with 8 billion people across the internet, right? With all
Yeah.
the tools we have, distribution we have. Before, we used to kind of collect and trade resources in order to add value to your local community. Today, we can build and collect ideas in order to add value to your corner of the internet, right? Your niche. And so, before maybe you were limited to the jobs or things that you knew about, your parents told you about. But today, because of the scale of the internet, unlimited possibilities, unlimited options, right?
Yeah.
And so before, and for me, like my parents were like, hey, you have to be a doctor. They used to call me the non-doctor of the family, and they used to joke and say, oh, he's a non-doctor, right? I dropped that, I got in this early in the medical school program, and I left, and they never let me forget every day of my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the biggest piece, my key takeaway is like just in the span of my journey, it's like, what is the one thing I want to spend the rest of my life doing, right? Because there's unlimited options, and the best option I think in retrospect to really do is something that you're obsessed with, right? Because at the end, like if you're obsessed with it, you'll find a role, opportunity, a company, or whatever it is that you fit with perfectly, and obviously you'll get compensated pretty well on, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Does that, like you mentioned, I think earlier in one of our weekly meetings, right, about a book that you were reading, right?
Yeah. Dandapani's book, The Power
Okay.
of Unwavering Focus. And I actually walked past this book at the bookstore, and I mean,
Wait,
wow, what a
what? Not
powerful.
Amazon.com? No one
No,
told you?
no, I was okay. I
Okay.
still go to bookstores, and I walk around and I look and I grab
Analog,
that
digital,
way.
analog
I
wins,
do
right?
it do it the
Yeah,
old-fashioned way because
exactly.
everything on computers. But no, I walk past this book, and I mean, wow, what a powerful title. Like The Power of Unwavering Focus. That in itself is a powerful title. But he talks about actual some Hindu philosophies and kind of and yogic philosophy, and a big part of yoga is the ability to focus. And I know that a lot of people are familiar with yoga as being yoga asana. The series of poses, like a physical practice that you spend 60 minutes, 90 minminutes, sometimes 3 hours on. And when you're expending that time, that kind of time, and you're physically doing the poses, it becomes really easy to kind of fall into that flow state. There's always the different like kinds of breathing exercises and that kind of a thing. But what Dandapani talks about in his book that I thought was a really valuable takeaway was that yoga is more than asana. Yoga is more than a physical practice that makes it easy to fall into that ability to focus. What really is something that should carry over to other aspects of your life, to allow you to focus in whatever situation that you're in. Just because, like I had mentioned, it's so easy to become distracted. It's so easy to feel motivated to kind of try and multitask. If you apply what you learn in, whether you're practicing yoga or whether you're exercising at the gym, lifting weights, doing cardio, whatever it is that you do, you need to be able to enter that same flow state in any task you're actually
Right.
executing.
When you're behind your desk or like coding or you're meeting or interviewing people or you're on a sales call, like you have to be in flow state, right? And it's
Mhm.
like really interesting
You
that
maximize your effort, you maximize your
your flow
efficiency, your
state
efficacy.
and your
Yes.
mindset and your attention. And it's like training like physically can it's kind of like that story with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he was on the rise to being a bodybuilder. And he said his main advantage was the other bodybuilders when were competing against him they knew the training, they knew the techniques, they knew the diet. But what they didn't view was like their mind as a muscle, right? They didn't give their mind enough
Yeah.
time for a break. They didn't give their mind a workout metaphorically, right? And
Mhm.
they didn't kind of train their ability to focus, right? And so it kind of leads to my kind of last lesson, right? We talked about saying, hell yes, versus hell no, right? If it's not if it's a maybe or it's a no, it's like a hell, it's a hell no, right? And we talked about kind of just basically using the power of the internet, and talked about, flow state being like a muscle, right? That you have to repeat. I think the last thing I think about is my childhood. I used to be a huge gamer, like the Nintendo Entertainment System or Atari, whatever it was. And I think really it's not that life is like a single player game, which I grew up on, right? It's more like a multiplayer game. And so
Mhm.
what I mean by that is like you have to play repeat and iterative games, right? So if it's like anything in life, any return, any investment, any, relationship, wealth, like knowledge, company building, it all comes from compound interest, right? And it's the
Mhm.
reason why you see today so many 40-year overnight success stories, right? Like Greg Flynn, the guy we talked about, who's a franchise king. He became one over 30 years, of course. Or, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, he became who he is today, right? After toiling as a wrestler and then
Yeah.
toiling, right? And trying to make it and then building a brand, building a crowd, and then working his way through to where he was, right? And so I think that's really kind of interesting, that the lens of it's a multiplayer game. You can get there by yourself.
Mhm.
And, a lot of our clients work with Dr. Ryan, for example, and because he is that multiplayer advisor that can tell them, hey, like this is the testing, this is the training, this is the therapeutics that can really give you the edge. This is something that we can kind of take off your plate so that, right, you can focus your highest and best use, right? So hell yes, hell no, work out like you're focused as if it's a muscle, use a world of infinite leverage to your advantage, tap into
Mhm.
yourself, right? And to your point, if it's yoga or whatever, practice flow state, right? Like do what it
Yeah.
takes. And it's life is a kind of a repeat iterative multiplayer game, right? And so lots of kind of pieces here. We don't want you kind of continuing to watch this video. If you're watching this video, why are you watching this video? Get back to work, right? But I think the biggest piece is, yes, focus is a muscle, and where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? So that's
Definitely.
all. But that's all for today's episode of Uberhuman Secrets. I will catch you all next time.
Thanks.